We would like to welcome everyone here. Today is Thursday, July 17th, of our City Council meeting. I am Mayor Shirley, and I will be conducting this meeting. We are going to go ahead. I will lead you in a pledge of allegiance, and then Councilmember Mayoral will lead you in a reference. And we get I have lived of the United States of America and secretly for sense one nation. And it is all with liberty and justice for all. Dear Father in heaven, we're grateful to you. Know the love that we have here. We're grateful for being able to experience pleasures of government and the decisions that will be made, and ask thee to be with us that we may make the correct ones. We're grateful for those serving our country. Ask thee to be with them, and we ask thee to bless those that aren't here, that they may be able to find the answers that we are doing this evening, and that they may be able to reach out and have questions answered for them. We ask you to bless us that we may return home in safety, and that all may go well, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you. We just have a few upcoming events that I wanted to announce. So as most of you are aware, this year is our year celebration for our Tomato Days. The first event we have is our Junior Queen Contest. And so that starts on August the 1st, and on August down at the rodeo arena, 9:00 a.m. will be when they do their horses together. So we have these beautiful young women in Hoover, and so we invite you to come and be at that event with us. You probably saw out in the foyer when you came in, our Queen Contest is on August the 6th at 6:00 p.m. And again, that's down at the rodeo grounds. So we would like to invite all of you to come and join us with that. I received this announcement this week. It's the Summer Western Roundup. It's a Western music cowboy poetry. It's Thursday, August 14th at 2:00 p.m. to 4:00 at the Roy Hillside Senior Center. And I posted out, you'll see out on the front where you come in, there's a flyer that looks like this. If any of you are interested or would like more information, you can reach out to us, and we will give that to you as well. Also, one thing that was in the packet is, you know, this is from the Central Weaver Sewer District, and they're planning on having a truth and taxation. That is going to be held on August 18th, 2025 at 6:00 p.m. in the Sewer Administrative Building, which is located on Pioneer Road. And again, this was in the packet. It gives you some little information about we're one of the municipality entities that they collect our sewer. It says they treat their wastewater from 16 municipal entities. which collectively produced 32.93 million gallons per day in the year 2024. Anyway, it gives a little bit of what the price increase would be if that true indexation goes through. So any of you that are interested, you can look in the packet because that information was in that. Okay, before we start with our public comments, I just wanted to explain a little bit because I know there's been a few questions and you received the notice on utility rates going up. So I just wanted to explain a little bit why this has occurred, and I know people have said in back-to-back years. Last year, we were made aware that the city was actually going in the red $1 billion a year because we did not have a a utility increase for our sewer for about 12 years, even possibly longer than that. And we had not kept up with our reach. And so last year we had to do an increase to have us break even. Unfortunately, after we had done that, about 2 weeks later, I received a notice from Waste Management that our rates were going up. We didn't increase them at that time. This year, I called Waste Management ahead of time to make sure. And so I just wanted to tell you something. So Central Weaver Sewer District, their rate went up 6%. And so we started putting on your reel, and you've probably noticed what we pay to Central Weaver Sewer District, how much you pay to Hooper. Part of your Hooper is paying for a bond. We still owe almost $7 million to the state for our sewer system. So part of that is paying for that. There's a little bit that goes in. So we have some money that we can pay for pumps. Some pumps are getting old. Waste Management, they just received that letter 5%, and that's what we had passed on to you. The tipping fee, we have to pay Weaver County to have them tip when they take our garbage. That went up 4.5%. I know some people have questioned about the storm drain. That went up 1,000. Some people have said, well, we don't even have a storm drain, but it's not explained. So when there is an exception that is made to develop bridges for those infrastructure, we have storm drains. But then still look somewhere for that back in the days. Ditches, and they are drainages are sleeve. Well, we don't have as many drainages, but we still have sleeve. So even if there's a subdivision, there is a infrastructure, the water still moves somewhere when it leaves the subdivision. I think our roads, we have a lot of little pipes that a lot of them need to be replaced. 13 projects right now that we're just waiting to see when the next one develops, and then we'll try to come up with money to replace that. So that's where that money goes. Even with this $1, and you figure we charge $1 more, that net of the city about $2,500, and we have one project currently on the books that's $800,000. So that $2,500 doesn't quite make it. So that's the reason. You may see this happen. It's not a surprising thing for utilities to go up, and these are pass-through costs. It isn't something that the city has the money to just eat those costs. So when they raise those fees end up being raised to residents. And if you have any questions on that, always feel free to call me. I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Okay, the next thing then on our agenda is public comment. So if you would like to come up and make a public comment, you have 3 minutes. If you would come up and state your name under advisement from the attorney, we are no longer going to allow people just to make negative, derogative things about individuals. If it's a city issue, you're more than happy to come up and make a comment. And again, 3 minutes, and Jamie will be here tonight, our timekeeper. So is there anyone that would like to make a public comment?
Also 5820 West 38 South. So I just wanted to follow up with the council, in particularly with Councilman Gill. 3-4 months ago, he made a motion in a meeting that was quite contested that members on the council and the mayor have a private meeting to work out their differences. And I believe it was agreed upon that evening to do so. And I think it's owed to the community to understand if that meeting was held, and what the outcome of that meeting was, and if we were able to get through those discussions and be able to work together as a team, or if we still have this dynamic of where those roadblocks exist and we're not able to function, and what the outcome of that should look like as it was recommended 3 or 4 months ago. I'd like to hear feedback on that. Because
Thanks, Bruce. So I did recommend that we had that meeting initially. We did schedule that meeting right away. And that first one was canceled due to the fact that some of the council members could not or did not want to attend that meeting. It was rescheduled. We thought that was still in the best interest. That was the motion that was made. So we did have that meeting. Remember the date? It was in June, right? Anyway, it was in June. We had that meeting. We did have a closed door meeting. We sat right here. What was it, 3 hours or so? And we talked about a variety of issues. I thought it went well personally. I can't speak for everyone, of course, but I thought things went well, and I thought they made some progress in that meeting. That's what I was hoping for, looking for, kind of miss fences and put together some agreements that were disagreements before. So that's what happened. That's what we did. And now we're here today to finalize things.
Travis Bates, I am a resident. I do want to revisit the increase. We were just talking about the resolution. My question or comment is more about procedure or procedural. I want to make sure that we don't run afoul of our own city ordinances. So that meeting was on a Tuesday evening. I was in attendance because we were going to talk about Terra Strata, which is kind of a hot topic. It was noticed as a work meeting as well, but we took a roll call vote, which runs afoul of our city ordinances. Under chapter 1, section 1, under meetings, that anytime there's an executive or work session, no official action shall be taken during any of these sessions. So I have no issue with the actual resolution or what's in it. Cost increase. I just don't know if we need to fix that in a future actual council meeting so that we don't run afoul of our own ordinances and pass resolutions and work meetings. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. At that meeting, we did ask our attorney because it was noticed on the agenda as going to be a motion that he said we were to do it.
Well, I know I understand that, but that's still a foul of our city ordinances. So, and I get, because I was here, I heard Reed say that, but
yeah,
it might be worth revisiting.
Okay, yes, we could certainly clarify that with the attorney because we did ask him. We asked him. Yes, we will. Thank you, we'll clarify. Okay, seeing no other public comments, then we will move on. We do. Oh, is there someone else? Okay.
So just a couple questions. So it sounds like because it's the
Here's Mr. Name. Tell your name.
Steve Wall.
Thank you.
Based on what's on the agenda, you had the meeting and this is to finalize that. Is that my understanding? Okay. It'd be interesting to see if that meeting did anything or not. So we'll see about that. But then I had one thought on the Smiths proposal. I keep hearing discussions of we may not see if that went through, we may not see any money for 20 years or something. Don't know if that's true or not true. But then there's another discussion of they would reach out to these other cities that have a Smiths, and they say they're doing well. They are making money soon after the implementation of that. So I guess my question is, how can we get good information and then, disseminate that and make a good decision? So, just curious how we can get to the end of that, where it seems like we have conflicting information. And the Smiths maybe have totally valid, we can accept that if that's the case. But if the information that we're getting from different parties, I'd love to see every one of you go do your own due diligence, get the information, and just have a great discussion, say, this is good, this is bad, and then come to say, hey, let's do this one. So, anyway, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And I think there will be more with that too. I believe there will be another opportunity for us to dive a little deeper into the study that was done by the LR group with that. So thank you.
Marcia Warwood. I just wanted to say how much we appreciate all that you do. We know that this is a hard job for you, not one of you, and we just want you to know that we appreciate the time and the sacrifice that you put into serve our community. We just say thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Hall, I have a few things. You listed on here discussion motion for shifting of mayoral powers. There's no ordinance reference, there's no ordinance in the packet. This hasn't been noticed to the public. For that, it's been on the agenda previously, but not noticed for this meeting. Obviously, this is by state code, you can do that. I'm on the West Haven City Council, I think if you know that. It would be really chaotic for you to take those powers from the mayor and disseminate to the council. Because you're already in a chaotic situation for a lot of these. If you want to take powers from the mayor and city manager, is the way to go. Looking over your budget doesn't look like that's a possibility right now, but if you're looking for professional leadership, the city managers is 100% the way to go. West Haven has done it, and it's been fantastic. And great for our city. You're going over the budget and taking pieces of that or giving authority to certain council members over different departments, I think would be detrimental to the city at this point. So, and people have asked, you have a close door meeting, you can't share what's that stays behind those doors, which is frustrating to the public. But you can, move forward from there, what you did accomplish there, and share with the public what you're going to do moving forward. So that is by state code, which is super frustrating. I know that we've been in many closed door meetings from the public, and that's what moves the city forward when you have to talk about the character or competence of an individual, when you talk about sale of land, all of those things that can only be done in a closed door meeting. So you have some tough decisions. I've been there, totally understand the way that you feel. And the public shows up to these meetings with the public show up, right, in these numbers. So I would really encourage you to stick with what you've got. It's a tough job to come onto the council, it's a tough job to become a mayor, because nobody's trained to do that, right? It takes some time to get into that. So I hope that maybe you found your groove, move forward the way that you are.
My name is Rick Wells. I'm in District 2 in Hooper, and I have more of a question than a comment. Well, I have a comment also. I have a neighbor, supposedly this is what he told the county compliance people and everything, a hobby business license through Hooper City. I've talked to 2 or 3 people. They said they've never heard of a hobby business license. They said it's just a straight business license. My main question is, once you have a business license, does that exempt you from ordinances within the city of Hooper that they've set up with a business license? This happens to be, I'll make it quick, it's an automotive business that he set up. His place looks like Fred and Lamont Sanford from Sanford and Sons. Okay, they've lived there 6 or 7 years. In that time frame, probably 10 times he's been told by the compliance people to clean it up. Right now, he's probably got 7, 8 unregistered vehicles. There's a feral cat issue since they moved in and they moved in all these vehicles. And I guess my main question is, since he has a business license now, is he exempt from the ordinances?
No, having a business license does not make you exempt from the ordinances.
Okay.
So, and I don't, think you have filled out an ordinance complaint, you maybe already have. And that's something we will be figuring out that better, because we know that we are not as, we need to improve with making sure that people are abiding by those ordinances.
Yeah, I think everybody, you guys and everybody here wants Hooper to stay a good, clean, beautiful place to live. I've lived here for over 20 years, great place. So now on District 2, who's my council person?
Right.
Bryce? We have time after this meeting, or we can be out of pictures and everything. Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
No other comments, we will move on. We actually have the approval of 3 sets of minutes. Councilmember Hill suggests, and I think if everyone is fine with it, we will approve these minutes at the same time. So I have a couple of things, if anybody else doesn't, or just name spellings. And so we are going to correct. Those are a couple of things I noticed. Signed in, or sometimes we can't understand what you're saying here. We maybe get these spelled wrong. So on the first one, it's dated June 5th. My note says it should be Martian. Down at the bottom. Instead of Marshall. Monte is spelled Montay. Dixon. Okay. I don't think I saw. Did anybody see anything else on this minutes? Anyone else? Okay. Let's move on to the next one then, for the June 17th. And again, at the top of the second page, Brandon Miles spelled his name instead of. Anything else? Does anyone else have any corrections? Minutes? And then the third set of minutes then is Tuesday, June 24th. And I didn't see any corrections. Anyone else? Corrections? Okay. Is there someone then that would like to make a motion to approve those 3 sets?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve minutes dated June 5th, June 17th, and June 24th, 2025 as corrected.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Gill. Is there a second? Second was made by Councilmember Mahoney. Any discussion on the motions? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so the next thing we have then on our agenda item is a discussion and a motion of the shifting of the mayoral powers. Now, this was already talked about. This was a motion that was put back in February. We did end up having a closed door meeting, and this was mentioned. That is something that we do not discuss. I was pretty optimistic with the meeting as well, as Ryan said. I felt like it went well. There's things that we are correcting as far as that, working things out together. And so I don't know if there's someone that would like to make a motion or have something that.
With finances, be more transparent with the finances. One of them was to be assigned as an official check signer, and we send out every month a list of check register and, additional information with the finance. So we accomplished that. I will go and actually sign up to be the check signer tomorrow. And so we're making steps towards that concern that we all have with finances, and transparency. So that was one of the steps. Another thing we had was, hiring our employees. Just tonight, we, agreed that one of the council members, Councilman Bauer, can be involved in the interviews of, hiring additional employees. And that was another step we took in the right direction. So just two things I wanted to mention.
As you've all stated, there's a lot of information that maybe you're not privy to that I have stated to inform the public library here and what's been going on for the last year here. And a little unsettling. So I'm gonna read something here. I'll take my time, so bear with me. But I think the public deserves to know this. It'd be uncomfortable, but that's okay. It says we're here tonight because of the mayor's actions. What has happened is not political, it's not personal. It's a necessary effort to restore accountability and reestablish the checks and balances of our local government is meant to follow them. This is about the law. City and state ordinances have been broken. Authority has been overstepped. Staff members have been pressured. And time after time, proper process has been. Let me be clear. We're not changing our form of government. We're utilizing the system of checks and balances, the very foundation laid by our nation's founders, to ensure that no single individual holds unchecked power. This is about restoring accountability, not disrupting structure. In a government of laws, not personalities, elected officials are bound to operate within the limits of their authority. When those limits are ignored, when ordinances are violated, the city council not only has the right, it has the legal and ethical duty to act. The mayor has repeatedly operated outside the scope of her role. Her unlawful involvement in city affairs, violations of ordinances, and use of public platforms has disrupted the legitimate function of our municipal government. These are not accusations. These are facts, documented, confirmed, and widely known among city officials. There's been 36 documented violations of Hooper City Code, 31 documented violations of Utah Code, a total of 67 known violations. Let me ask plainly, what number of violations are we as a community comfortable with? 1, 7, 30, 67? And if we tolerate that from our mayor, how do we hold other citizens accountable under the law? These issues have been brought to the mayor's attention many times, trying to work with her. That's where there are multiple violations because contempt, cooperation, compromise, and resolution still misconduct continued. Additionally, the mayor's false public accusation that 3 prominent Hooper residents stole irrigation water shares has now placed the city at risk of a costly lawsuit. She has used access to the city's legal insurance to defend her actions without notifying the city council, despite knowing her claims were false. She could have resolved these issues with a phone call. Instead, she chose chaos. And now the financial burden is on all of us. And yet a small but vocal group continues to defend her. Whether out of loyalty, misinformation, or willful ignorance, their support enables this disruption. It emboldens misconduct. Let's be honest. The vote to do nothing is a vote to condone lawbreaking. The refusal to act is not neutrality, it's complicity. Those ignoring these violations are not preserving order. They're endorsing unlawful behavior. And those who defend this conduct, even without knowing all the facts, are helping silence the very people who elected both the mayor and this council to uphold local law. This is our city, and we were elected to serve its people. We didn't take an oath to protect positions. We took an oath to protect this community, uphold the law, and do what's right. We believe in upholding the oath. We believe in upholding the oath that we all took to serve with honesty, to follow the laws, to execute our responsibilities with fidelity, and to protect this community. This isn't about one person. It's about restoring trust in local government. It's about standing up for the residents of Hooper who expect integrity, transparency, and leadership. The violations are real. The impact is growing. The time for silence and delay is over. The people deserve accountability. They deserve action. They deserve now. I believe that, and there's some information out there that some private citizens have put together, and it's available, and so you can know everything. But if our citizens are okay with that, yeah, this is uncomfortable, so I like doing this now. I think it's a terrible position to be in, but it needs to be addressed. And I think we're willing to do that. We need to push the pause button and redistribution of powers. It's not a permanent thing. It could be a temporary thing, but I believe we need to resolve these issues before we move on. And our city will go on just fine, with the city council running things and in time, they can give her powers back. And as far as not being on the agenda, the instructions from our attorney were as such. He says, what we can do is pass the motion, then do the ordinance in the following meeting, once Reed is back in town. So the advice and direction of Reed, I would like to entertain that motion, but I'd say it's up to you to start that off, or you want me to just make the motion?
So I would like to make a few comments. So as everyone is aware, I've been the mayor now for a year and a half. There are some sitting up here that were not excited when I was running for mayor, and even less excited when I was voted as the mayor. And for the last year and a half, it really didn't matter what I was trying to do. I have been met with opposition. That happens sometimes in a council. That's why it's called a council. Sometimes you agree on everything. Sometimes you don't agree on very many things. But a council is you sit down and you discuss things. What I find very bothersome, which keeps coming over, and you mentioned a certain number of city and state violations. I'm pretty certain if I would have committed these state and city violations, that our attorney would have been contacted and they would have notified me that I was violating all of these ordinances and codes and what you have said. And when it was asked, I have only ever been told of one that was told that I violated. We have discussed this several meetings, and it was one that had to do when a public hearing should have been held. I was told a public hearing should have been held, and we did not hold that. What I would like to know is, when as a city can we, as a city council, because I am one of the members of the city council, I have the office of the mayor of the city council, can we start working together? We have so much we can accomplish in this city, a lot we can accomplish, and it has been, in my opinion, a waste of time to keep rehashing things over and over. I am tired of it. I'm sure all of you are tired of it. So let's work together as a city council and let's move on. You mentioned we had our closed door meeting that was 3 hours. We talked about a lot of things which we can't discuss here. And we, as Brian mentioned, there's already some things that we are already working on together. So my motion would be that we dismiss this and we move on as a city council to work together, city council. Because some of these things you mentioned are true, some of them you've mentioned are not true. So let's just move on and work together.
Oh my God. I was expecting that, and yes, we do need to work together, but these items, they're still, and there's others that I can bring up, but I'm not going to, that are quite serious. So I don't believe you can make a motion, but one of us can, and someone can second, and then we can vote on it and be done. If we're okay with that behavior, then that's fine. I can live with that. But me as the city councilman, to witness what has happened over the last year, I'm not comfortable. And it's just this or that, but what if someone ran a stop sign 67 times in front of your house, and then the last one they wipe out your kid or something? Someone's got to take some action, and we need to resolve this. I think it's time to do the reset button. So I'm gonna make the motion that as on the recommendation of Reed, it's not to do the ordinance, but to go ahead and motion of shift the marital powers to the city council. That's my motion. And then when Reed gets back in town, he can craft the ordinance, and basically it's probably just some dates that need to be changed.
Okay, there was a motion made by council member Wilcox. Is there a second?
I have comment. Personally, as a council member,
I did not run to be the mayor. I did not want the mayor responsibilities and jobs, and I have the time for this position, and I don't feel comfortable jumping into any of the mayor's, jobs or doing any of those things for her because I am not familiar with in depth as she would be. So I don't know if I feel comfortable with taking over, in any aspect. That I was assigned a certain spot to do. I don't know if I would have the time. I don't know if that's why I'm on the council.
I feel that we all need to know, make sure that things are done correctly. When I see things that haven't been done as they should be, it makes me think pause. It makes me question, why am I here? And do I have the strength to stand up and do what's right? And that's not always easy. And tonight I have to do that. And I second the motion.
Okay, so the motion was seconded by Councilmember Marinoni. In order for this to carry, because they are taking away mayoral duties, it has to be by unanimous vote, and we will do a roll call vote. Okay,
I guess my issue is we had to go for a meeting because that was the tool that we agreed on that we would meet, we would discuss all these items. It's been mentioned that there's 67 items of law breaking. I think in our meeting, you might have brought up 3 or 4 of those items. So that's where I'm concerned is I don't have a sheet of paper or a list that says here's the 67 items. We're not talking about the 67 items. There was 3 of the word that you had. I have a couple, the rest of us have a couple things. And so that's a lot of things that got thrown by the wayside in our post-road meeting that was the intent or the purpose of having a post-road meeting was to discuss these 7 items that were existing somewhere.
Where we, at the time, we talked about other things.
We could stay all night.
Yeah, well,
I didn't.
I think you were ready to do everything on there. You know, I made CMOs just a little while ago. So I can't say I have all of them documented, but since we've done that and give you that information. But I think we discussed enough of a lot of concern that it warrants this. And if you deny that, then that's okay. That's on you. But me personally, I can't stand up for that kind of behavior. It's gotta be rectified. She should still be our mayor. And but if for a time we take the steering off, and we correct the ship. And if you guys decide not to, that's fine. I can live with that.
Back when I tabled this motion, I made a comment, that, certain people could work together and not we had to have a meeting, and a closure meeting, was trying to figure out how to work together as adults in the city council and mayor. And I think, the people elected us do a good job. And, you know, there was competition in our election, and I chose each one of us individually, to be up here and to make decisions for the city. That we can't figure out how to work together, set our personal issues aside, whatever they may be, then we need to excuse ourselves from this council. Because part of taking that hold to uphold the law, uphold the things that we said, also involves figuring out how to work together despite any issues, the ups and downs and all the way. I mean, we're celebrating 100 years Hooper City, Vino City this year in September, on September 1st, Labor Day. And instead of trying to figure out how to come together as a community to celebrate and celebrate each other, we're trying to figure out how to divide and create division and hate with each other. So that's where my problem is, and I'll leave it at that.
I don't agree. I don't think that I'm trying to get along with something to do. If something is not being done right, you don't just ignore it.
We work on it, like we might say.
Right. Audit, which we've been doing for a year and a half. When it gets to a point where you need to step back and say, something else needs to happen. You have to have the strength to do that. And you have to have the fortitude to do what you took as supposed to do. And that's what I think we need to do. It's not taking away her as our mayor. She's still our mayor. It's just giving it a break so that we can go ahead and get things working. It hasn't been working right. And I can work with anyone, Brian. I've worked with anyone. And I can do that. And I can work with Sherry. I've known Sherry forever, and I can work with her. It's just some things you need to say, okay, we need to take a step back and we need to do something. And sometimes that's doing something completely. And what we're doing is working. What we were doing was not working. And like you said, it did take some time, but in that meeting, in my opinion, we did do a reset button. We talked about the things. It's not going to change overnight. We have to take a few weeks, a few months to get things back in order. Our feelings, our worries, our concerns were discussed flat out. We may not have agreed on things that night either, but was I upset about a few things? You bet. However, in the reset, that was our night to do it. That was our night. In my opinion, that was the night we reset. We explained what we wanted, what we needed, and what couldn't be done and shouldn't be done. And then we're done with the discussion. I don't understand why we're still pushing and pulling this stuff for. When we said we'd have a meeting, we had our meeting, we discussed. I thought, in my opinion, we came out with a decision of like, okay, we'll start fixing it with this, and this, and let's go on from there. I had no clue that we were still dragging it. I thought we were on our way to making things better. I didn't. Well, Steve Briggs was not in our meeting. I know. That's not. I had no idea I do doing this tonight, except it was on Steve Briggs' garage. So I was not in the know. This just came up on our agenda and I had no idea it should show it.
What concerns me too is, yes, we had that closed door meeting. Was there some progress made? Yes. But still, between that time frame and now, there was still some inappropriate, extremely inappropriate behavior that I know about, and that's not in 67, and it's pretty disturbing. So anyway, I say let's take a vote and be done.
Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, this needs to be by a roll call vote then, and again, as we said, it has to be unanimous. That is by state code. Anytime that you are shifting mayoral powers, it has to be by a unanimous vote. So we'll start with Council.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Maragoni. There's no secretary. My vote is no. Lisa. council members like to on this, where it's even now. Whoever wants to do, but, no. Councilmember Wilcox?
Yes.
Okay. Motion does not carry. Okay, let's move on then. Yes, we're not, they have planning and we want to keep on now with the rest of the. Okay, so the next thing on our meeting then, option of the approval of the commercial business license, your coop. This is located at 3928 South 5350 West. Is there someone here that would like to address this or not, do you have anything to tell us about?
I don't. Morgan's been working a lot with this. They received a conditional use permit from Planning Commission for an in-home daycare. I guess Morgan has processed this now and is bringing this for approval for a commercial business license. I guess one note in full transparency is an in-home daycare and it's getting processed that way. It does operate out of a small structure that she's constructing in the back of her home, but the Planning Commission's aware and familiar with it, so.
Okay, would you state your name? Then about this.
I actually have a flyer if you'd like. My name is Christina Thomas, so I'm going to ask. This is 30 US. I am the owner of the kindergarten. I'm a licensed teacher. I've been since 2014, and I'm ready to update kindergarten. The schools don't really go to that anymore. They say they do, but they get a different experience. The child has a different experience. When they do have to, it's not quite the same. I just wanted to wait to bring them back to a lot of play and more hands-on, indoor, outdoor during the day so that kids can just be kids, but also fun and standard-based education.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for her?
Is it a Peter property? It is. We are actually just for the footing today, actually, it's an exciting day. It'll be a 25-minute building, with a bathroom, walk-in closet. I think you can wash your hands, lots of cabinetry, and I only have 10 seats. So it's about 750 square feet. I don't think he did any cool.
I've read through all of your information. It seems like you're very well prepared. You know, you have the required certification for stuff that's needed for this project.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this as the council? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the commercial business license of the kindergarten located at 3928 5350 West.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Mayoral. Is there a second? Second is made by Councilmember Wilcox. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is something that we had previously approved, but we just recently received the interlocal agreement. So you saw in your packet that on December 5th of 2024, the motion was actually made to enter into this. And we just recently received this. So I want to bring this for you again for the approval of the interlocal agreement relating to the Roy Hillside Senior Center. And if you remember at that time, then there's going to be fewer senior centers that are going to be open, and it was a yearly commitment of $4,000 from Clifford in order to, it'll be West Haven, Clifford, and Roy. for the Roy Senior Center, and that has been. Any questions? And it's a CRT years. We sit in December, but I'm thinking they will probably be a fiscal year, but I'm not certain on that. But I believe they are because the county can use the same fiscal year as we do. I just received this just a couple of weeks ago. They didn't say an exact time frame, but I'm assuming they did reach out to me just yesterday and asked if I signed it yet. And I said, let's go to June. But I'm assuming it would be beginning July 1st.
Well, I had a question on that. When this was discussed before, we had a motion by Council Member Hill to approve $4,000 through Roy City, and this was an agreement that was not to extend beyond 1 year. And then he also made a motion for $1,980 to be approved for the senior lunches. So when I read this local agreement that we received from Roy City, is it just involving food, or is it involving that building as well? Wear and tear on the building? That there's not really a dollar amount put in there. It just says if we sign this, be resolved by the city council, Hooper City duly assembled, that the attached interlocal agreement between Roy City and Hooper City relating to providing senior citizen services be approved and adopted by Hooper City. What are the services? Ryan's motion didn't involve services other than, as I understood it, meals. So this new local agreement we have, does that involve services if they're sitting wear and tear on chairs or tables, or see, it doesn't really identify that.
So what the interlocal agreement is Roy, Hooper, and West Haven are each committing to a $4,000 annual for their senior center. It won't be more. That is the maximum that we will pay is $4,000. So if there are additional costs to their senior center for wear and tear, they will be responsible for that. Our financial commitment is $4,000 annually, and that is for lunches to be provided.
So I'll try to answer your question. Section 1, scope of the agreement, number 2 says the city should agree that this agreement is not intended to cover all costs associated with the facility, but to provide proportionate compensation in relation to those services utilized by residents. Roy is also pursuing similar agreements with nearby communities whose residents frequently utilize these services. So $4,000 doesn't cover all the costs. I think Roy is pitching in quite a bit for us on our behalf. Well, they've asked us for is $4,000 to provide services, meals, entertainment, place to go to all, whatever people. I think it's a value to our community. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Roy has quite a substantial for this, in addition to this 4,000. So yes, but that's what our specific is.
Mayor, you know the numbers of our citizens who attend.
You know what, one time I did, we really do have quite a few. I was surprised they hadn't even served Thanksgiving, and never that time we had to count. Now I don't remember exactly what it was, but we really do have. And it's not, they have an activity every, so they're only asking us for 1,000, but we can. Ridiculous. Any other questions on this from the council? Okay, so is there someone that will make a motion to enter into the interlocal agreement to Royal?
So the one question I did have was, do we have to re-approve this agreement annually? Because we.
If not, then it is. That's a concern I.
Yeah, we had to answer that to them that we would only do a year at a time. And we could make sure that we have that on here, that it is for a 1 year agreement. Because that's what we did agree to with 1 year, and I'm certain somewhere it did say 1 year. I think that. Yeah, like. Yes, I don't agree. This guy, we always have him review all of our contracts before anything, and he didn't have any, he said we already approved it. He didn't seem to have any concerns with it.
If it's not in there, just in the motion, we'll visit it annually, each year, each fiscal year. We kill it. I didn't see it in there, but maybe it is better.
That's a good point. In the motion, it could be made for a 1 year contract.
You're saying if that's in the motion, that would carry it over onto this interlocal agreement. See, I'm thinking we're talking about two different things.
That was kind of my question too. Why did we just, an interlocal agreement and a resolution? Should it just be one?
So the interlocal agreement is between us and Roy. The resolution has to be for her passing a resolution for us saying that we are going to do the interlocal. I think it's the same thing that anytime, even like has to have the rates increased, but then we also have. Could you clarify that?
Re-release that for it, correct?
Yes, restate these.
So let me. Forgiven.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement. Waiting for the Royal Senior Center between Hoover City and Hoover City.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Is there a second?
I would like to amend that. And that is that it's only for 1 year.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have that amended. Okay, is there a second? Second. Second is made by Councilmember Hill. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then the next part of that then is the resolution, which will be 2025-04. Hey, sorry about the confusing. Okay, so the a resolution R 2025-04. So if there's someone who would like to make the motion to approve that,
I'll make that motion.
okay, that motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second was made by Councilmember Flowers. Any discussion on the motion?
Just that. To amend the resolution to include the contract of 1 year also.
Okay, yes. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, the next one we have is a motion, the approval of ordinance number 2025-03. We talked about this a couple of meetings ago about the posting of home signs. Read again, stamp this ordinance for you to review and to vote on.
On this one, I've had several people reach out to me asking what kind of signs, like
Is this any sign? Is this a sign? Or, is there an ordinance for signs? So, can you clarify that?
The details of the resolution.
Right, but it doesn't, there's a nameplate and home occupation signs. So should we add other signs or just have it be for home occupation? Or should we have separate one for sign? So when we discussed this before, it was for 10, 4, and 8, which was on signs, which talked about accessory nameplate and occupation signs. Permitted. So I believe this has to do with home occupation signs. Which would be.
Yeah, here's your response.
I didn't want to make that. Anyway. Anyway, just why there should be wrong. Or should we do separate, or should we do separate ones? Because I have.
Well, there's other components for like when the signage. Correct. So I don't know if it's relative. What do you mean relative? But most great information, especially about that thing.
Well, you know, that's what I'm wondering. Which side is which, right? Vertical side. We put it on this one, or do you make, or do you make? In May, when we talk about. Yes, I'm getting one of the meetings. But then they're getting to. Like, yes, when they come in and get the permit to put their, make a business. Right, they would need to know their body is big. They would need to go out that permit as well. And on that permit, it tells them, like, on quarter acre. Size, and we decided we agree to that, have it based on the site. Right. But, and then place of it, you know, a little bit about the lighting, I don't know if that. Yes, the word needs to be care as well. That basically what you're saying. Well, basically, like, they wanted to sign up that, you know, like we put park, something like that, you know, and someone that's like the size of it, you know, it's not right. It's kind of like they did the 100-year, yeah, parks. It's like a big business, but it's just the signage. So does it apply to this particular one, or is it on one of itself? That's a question that I don't have. How does the council feel with, because this, like I mentioned, is pertaining just to a specific ordinance, but, so we do have, like as you mentioned, Brian, we have other signs for this political signs. Is there other things you want to add to this, or do you want to have one separate when it's dealing with all of this? Have attorney draft something else just for signs. Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's now they do good idea. Those used to have several of this. You know, miscellaneous signs. Something we got a picture. So that, and that would be easy enough to do. So I'll talk to this that we don't and that. Well, how that, and then there would be
that okay with you guys?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think out of the box. I mean, signs, I think it's signs. So many definitions, you know, like with the marquee, with the flashing electronic sign, with the handwritten signs, and the. I mean, there are so many.
Right.
Um,
Getting so many, such diversity. But we're getting so many different things from the city that, you know, people are asking questions about what we have, what we could do, and so.
I mean, I can already think of a couple of examples, but violate this ordinance, like, in town, so. Yeah,
So I think maybe we ought to participate in this thing, because definitely, like some of the people that have heard that they have a farm or something, you know, not the 100-year ones, but you know, that's when they said they conserve the farm and stuff, you know, they deal with their side. So that's something that I bring out. Well, if you would like to look into this more, we don't necessarily need to pass this one tonight. If you're thinking that something you would like to add on to this, well, I think there's probably should be its own since it's a business one. I was thinking maybe we could put them all in together, but they would be different signs. This would probably be the best for Spanner. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve ordinance number 0202503, posting of home signs by residents of the city. Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Maragoni.
I'll second this.
Okay, second is made by Councilmember Powers. Any discussion on the motion? And this actually should be, which I'm looking back on this, so we should have done as well with the resolution. So we can either go back to everyone, or I would you like to go back and read. If it's not this kind of this other resolution about. Let's do this one. We'll do that. Okay, so this will be then we will first do the one, the 28503, Councilmember Powers,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
yes,
Councilmember Maragoni, yes, Councilmember Montero, yes, Councilmember Ross.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. I do this out of the net. Excuse me, the resolution or in this was a interlocal agreement. So we'll do this. Just kind of start this direction, Councilmember Ross. Councilmember Montero, aye. Councilmember Maragoni, aye. Councilmember Hill, Councilmember Powers, okay. Okay, so now we just have some discussions. So the first one is on the moderate income housing. And this report is actually done on August the 1st. And Malcolm is going to discuss a few things with this, we strategies we met about last meeting, but I'll turn the time.
Just like Sherry mentioned, the moderate income housing report will be due and we'll complete it on August 1st. Madison Avelas is helping us from WFRC. She helped with the 2024 report prior to me. So she's helping us work through it and kind of helping me grasp what's been done so that we can transition and be a little bit more proactive next year would be the hope. In terms of the three, before the three strategies, we've collected all this initial preliminary data here in house and we'll provide that to her. So we have all of our, different lots and the availability and our ADUs and things of that nature. That all looks good. With the different strategies, we have the three as mentioned by Sherry. Really the last couple weeks working with her, I've just been identifying for her the efforts that have been made towards those strategies. So for strategy E, which concerns ADUs, really just highlighted how many we've had. We had 5 this year permitted ADUs for 2025. These are detached ADUs. We also have a recommendation from the planning commission to increase the allowed size or the maximum size for oversized structures and ADUs that we'll bring to city council to the next meeting so that you guys can work on that. We're hoping that those efforts show that we're, serious about our ADUs. It seems to fit our city's profile well, and we have large lots and we like the way our ADUs have worked out. So that's been a good strategy. With strategy F, the zone to higher density, or in, higher density residential and commercial and mixed use area. We've really just kind of worked on, identifying, we've done good effort on that as well with the planning commission recommendation for the rezone of the Smiths, which you guys have put a lot of effort into as well, identifying how that would look and what we want that to look like. So those have been some good efforts there. And then finally with strategy G, to amend some of the land use regs. Really that couples fairly well. I think as we identify areas that we do grant these rezones for, I think, once we get comfortable with certain areas, that we could be a little more proactive in future years and actually go and amend any maps that we feel like, hey, well, we've already approved this project here. It would make a lot of sense to do similar types of projects in this area, and we can get more granular maybe with our commercial zoning. So it's not just a one stretch of commercial. We could kind of identify we have C2 here, which would be more like our Smiths, and maybe C1 closer as we get into town, which would be more neighborhood markets. And maybe we have industrial as you come back this way on 55, where there's already been some trusts and things like that manufacturers place. Those are just speculative as we go forward. I think really the only other thing from a staff perspective I want to highlight, really, I was hoping you guys could just discuss them. I wasn't around when these were set. And so I'd like to know kind of the council's feeling surrounding the strategies that were identified. Some of them, I had questions, and we've been working on whether we could modify, and it's like new strategies. We're married to these ones, obviously, but for next year, I don't know if that would be of interest too. If we felt like one, for instance, ADUs, it feels like we've done a lot of work on those. I think you guys have done a really good job. Maybe that one, once we've got the size locked in, after that, that's one that could cycle out and we could get something that's different, something that's more actionable. And then beyond maybe potential changes, I was just curious. I was hopeful, and maybe we have a brief discussion as you guys tell me what you think of the strategies and what you'd like to see moving forward, to set up some quarterly meetings, whether that be with the city council or the planning commission, where you guys would like to have staff do that, so that we've had 3 solid meetings and 2 or 3 good in staff work sessions on this, so that when we get to this time next year, it's a little more robust than just kind of go back and find what we've done. So that's everything that we've been doing towards it. So love to hear your guys' thoughts so that we can take some meaningful notes and make good action and get this one done and make a good report next year as well.
Does the council have any new questions, suggestions on them? I know that we have talked about our last meeting. These are the ones that we're working on, as long as we're showing that we're making progress. Maybe next year, might want to look at items that might have any questions.
Can you send us a list of the available strategies? Maybe what's realistic for us to choose from or deviate to?
Yep, I will. I'll send the list. They have it all spelled out so we could all review them.
And I agree with him. It would be a good idea for us to start it sooner. This always seems to creep up by the time I hear. I feel like we only have a week's work on it. So this would be a good idea to even start at the end of the year or even the beginning of the year, to start looking at those strategies and which ways we could go with those. Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay. The next item we have then was a discussion on the budget for community events. And I went through and typed up, and you probably myself in the past through, and I went as far as the actual financial statements that were in the office. One thing that was interesting to note, when we get our financial statements, these are for fiscal years, and one thing with Mayoral bit difficult, especially with our reporting is fiscal year, of course, from July 1st until June 30th. Sometimes get sponsorship money in those, even though the event, so some money comes in. The event actually happens second next fiscal year, and so just a matter of trying to coincide, and so Tammy provided us with some numbers and so this, I know there was concern about here. If you go by the fiscal year, which we have always reported, we're in line where it has been. If you go by the calendar year, then it looked like we were off. But again, if you go by January to December, it doesn't always happen. We came in as anyway, that's yesterday during kind of the health time. And one thing we talked about is the health fair every other year. So we can make sure we have everything there ready that our residents need. We will still have the food shop clinic. So don't know if there's any questions, discussion we want to concerns. Yeah, I was just, I've been looking at ways that I know we passed the budget, but we were told that we could amend it. And, so I've just been looking at things and ways maybe that we could take a little bit of money out of it and save it because we've been told that we're in such a bad way. And that at the moment, my budget is going to find it by trying to ways to cut money. And so this was one of the things that I thought we could, because we did get a $50,000 grant. I didn't feel that we needed to expend as much money this year on the days, because we did have some money to go in there to replace some of the money that we usually use. And so I got looking at it, and we have, I mean, I just have the ramp grant allocate, an allocation that's been rejected. So I'm sure that it's completely different than what you got planned. And that, but I have that. But there are some areas that I cut back on. I was really surprised that I got a letter from one of our, from our accountants that said that police in place that you didn't need to cut it. And so that's right. Okay, you just said there's I understand the request to the budget here that just started to the Mayor Day's budget. However, the financial statements and budgets of the city illustrate good financial positions contrary to cutting programs. Accordingly, I recommend not making significant changes as the finances are well managed. 60 days of the budget year. And then he has below a table showing revenues and extensive expenditures. The city even transferred $935,000 restricted money from the general fund to staff. Stay below the 35% fund litigation in the state. So there is an amount of money that cannot keep above that. Spread to another fund, and we have that overhead. The city's 2026 budget does not use accumulated fund balance. Does plan to use, but there is an unrestricted transfer budgeted to go from general to capital of $429,078. There are studies budgeted in capital expenditures budgeted in the capital funded sewer. Sewer, stormwater, and garbage trucks need to stand on their own. So he's basically telling us that we're funded and that we're okay. And we don't need to, I don't need to worry about cutting back on labor days. So I thought that was interesting because I've been really concerned about that. I've laid awake at night worrying about what I handle yet. And I still am. But that's why I was looking at areas, because maybe areas has got too big for us and got programs, and maybe we need to cut back to a little bit more for work instead of work for everybody seems to come to it that isn't really good. And this
tomato days, that was where you get the papers. But anyways, that's just something that I thought maybe we could look at, taking a little bit of money out, take it back into our fund. So, that was, it was the discussion I thought we should bring up, that maybe we're not in as bad of a place financially as we think.
And I think you're doing your assignment job, because when we're over budget, like there's been a narrative out there that we're gonna get annexed, we're gonna, this and this is gonna happen to us. That's not so, but it's kind of unfortunate that it took us to review the request and then the budget to get our account to say, hey, look, we're solving.
Yeah.
We're budgeted, we're gonna be okay. So the narrative we're getting annexed and stuff is not correct.
Right.
So if we just be fiscal and grow responsibly, we'll be okay.
Yes. So I thought that was good to know, this information that I have. Good to find out, and we can always work on it. I mean, I'm not saying that, we're right and free and that we can spend whatever we want or whatever, but we aren't going to be annexed by a boy anytime soon, and we still need to watch what we spend. So that was just something that I thought was good, and I still would like to maybe cut down on tomato days, just because we did get a substantial amount of random grants that stand to come back a little bit on it. Maybe have a discussion about that. And whatever the council.
Well, thank goodness we do get random grants, and most importantly, we get sponsorships.
Yes.
There's always for sponsorships. We wouldn't have to, because it's pretty much. So, without all those great sponsors that we have, we wouldn't be having a discussion. So,
Right.
I mean, I'm looking at the last 8 years of these mayor days. Every single year, we've broke even or been black, and so we've never gone in debt for tomato days.
I mean, there is. But I think that.
This was out of last issue. About 1 year, a week, red, as far as the
And again, that's what I'm explaining. So it showed that we didn't break even when you calendar year, but when you do fiscal year, which is what's in. And then we get every year, then we have not. Just a little bit of clarification too. So yes, there is a budget line item that shows cover tomato days, because you have to have somewhere to take that from when we are paying expenses. So when you go through the budget, there is always the revenue when there is an expense. So if we didn't have a line item in our budget that said for tomato days, when we had an expense that we had to pay for, we wouldn't have a line item to take it from. That doesn't mean that we end up using that budget, because when we end up depositing then, everything we get from tomato days, that has to be against that get rid of revenue. So I don't know if that probably didn't make sense, but that's how it was explained to me years ago. There has to be revenue, there has to be expenses, so it has to be a line item. So they have somewhere to put all of those items against. And one thing that we are going to start doing as of this year, we are going to have a separate account. So if we do, like we have over these years, past years, and we have money, that it will actually go into a for tomato days account. Because we feel like like Ryan mentioned, we have so many generous sponsors that will donate to her tomato days sponsorship, and we want them to feel like that is being used for tomato days. If there's money that we come out in excess revenue, that it just doesn't. I have this. I have a list of vendors and things. And they are different, but the bulk of the money does come from the city, I think. So it's good that we take the money back. But one thing we've always tried to do with Tomato Day, so, and everybody that's been there, we have vendors, that is one way of those things. Trying to make sure that we always meet what we have. For example, if you've been to the rodeo, that's one of the few things that we sell rodeo tickets for us. We figured out how many rodeo seats, and we know we have that much money that can go towards the rodeo. Same way with the baby show, there's a small amount of people pay to be in the baby show. That's one thing we've always been very conscientious, is to make sure that our events, that the expenses, we end up getting enough revenue to cover those. And if we don't, then we have generous sponsors in the initiative. Received a $50,000 ramp grant, which was enabling us for a few extra things in celebration of our year that they did the first year. For example, we are having a horse pull, which was one of the very first events they had. We're doing a cowboy mounted shoot. Some of those things will be covered. Yeah, and that's correct. There are just a lot of quite expensive that maybe we could cut down. That's all I'm saying. We need to be trying. And I'm able to see the consequences. We are. The taxes that are strong, so I think that we should take that upon ourselves to act. Any other discussion on that? Hey, we'll be hearing more about Tomato Day, I mentioned, Harry will be coming and talking about some of the exciting things. So with that, then, is there someone that would like to make a motion to adjourn? Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Hill, is there a second? Second was made by Councilmember Wilcox, all in favor? Okay, motion to adjourn. Thank you for